Hello everyone, and welcome once again to this explainer. Today we are going to completely demystify web hosting by walking through a straightforward, step-by-step guide for hosting a simple website. We're going to focus entirely on the core mechanics, setting up an Apache server and deploying your very own static files. So if you've ever wondered how a website actually makes that jump from your local computer to the open internet, well, you are definitely in the right place. Let's get into it.
So let's start with the core problem here. Viewing an HTML file on your own laptop. Super easy. You just click the file and boom, it opens. You'll see a local path in your browser looking something like c/user/index.html. But you obviously can't just hand someone that local file path and expect them to see your work, right? For the rest of the world to actually see it, your site needs to be globally accessible. It has to live out there on the internet using a public IP address.
To get there, here's our game plan for today. We'll go from local to global, get your cloud server up and running, install the Apache web server, and finally, deploy those static files. Starting off with Section 1, Local to Global. Okay, to make your content globally accessible, you absolutely need a web server. Today, we're using Apache, which is a massive industry standard, also known as an HTTPD server. Now, that D on the end, it stands for daemon. Basically, that means it's a software service running continuously in the background. Its entire job, literally its only purpose, is to constantly listen for incoming HTTP requests and reliably serve up your web content to whoever out there is asking for it. And here is our deployment roadmap. It's really just a four-step process. We're going to start by grabbing an AWS account. Next, we launch an EC2 instance. Then, we install the Apache software itself, and finally, we upload our HTML files. Simple, right? It's a highly effective, tried-and-true path. Which brings us to Section 2, Getting Your Cloud Server. For your actual server, you're going to launch an Amazon Linux EC2 instance. The great news here is you can utilize the AWS free tier, which is absolutely perfect for testing this out without spending a dime. But here is the absolute crucial point. When you're in the network settings, you must, and I mean must, check the boxes to allow HTTP and HTTPS traffic. If you skip this part, the server's firewall just blocks the internet entirely, and nobody outside your machine is going to be able to reach your site. All right, moving right along to Section 3, installing our Apache web server. Once you actually connect to your EC2 instance's terminal, which you can do right through your browser, by the way, you'll need to install the software. Since we're using an Amazon Linux machine, which is Fedora-based, you're just going to run this specific command, sudo yum install httpd. That sudo part gives you the temporary root access you need to install packages, and httpd, as we talked about, is the actual package name for Apache. Now, the installation is done, but the server isn't actually running yet. It's just sitting there. So next, you'll run sudo systemctl start httpd. That command actually kicks off the web server, starting it up as that background daemon service we discussed earlier. But hey, you should never just assume it worked, right? Always verify. Go ahead and run this status command. You really want the output to explicitly show that the service is active and running. You'll also probably notice it says it's listening on port 80. That's a good thing, because port 80 is the universal default port for all standard HTTP traffic. And this brings us to the magic moment. If you go and copy your server's brand new public IP address straight from your AWS dashboard and then paste that into your web browser, boom! You're going to be greeted with a page proudly displaying the phrase, "It works!" Seeing this default Apache test page, that is the ultimate proof that your server is live, healthy, and correctly answering requests from the open internet. Let's finish strong with Section 4, Deploying Static Files. So let's look at this very specific directory path, /var/www/html. I want you to think of this exact path as a public display window. When your newly running Apache server gets a request from a user somewhere out there, this folder is where it looks by default to find the content it needs to show the world. To actually put your website into that display window, you'll just follow 4 simple steps right there on your terminal. First, navigate over to that specific folder. Second, you'll type sudo vi-index.html that creates a new file using the visual editor. Third, write up some basic HTML content, maybe just a simple header tag with a custom message. And finally, save the file and exit the editor. Now jump back to your browser and just hit refresh on that same public IP address. That generic Apache test page, it'll vanish, and your very own custom text is going to appear right there. If you typed, say, "This is our static website," that is exactly what will be displayed. Your creation is now officially live, and it's visible to absolutely anyone in the entire world who has that IP address.
You've done it. We have successfully deployed your site globally. But if you look closely at your browser's URL bar, it's really just a raw, kind of boring public IP address, right? Plus, your browser is probably throwing a big warning saying the site is not secure. We've absolutely nailed the foundational steps today, but consider this. What will it actually take to elevate the setup? Are you ready to add a proper custom domain name and configure some rock-solid HTTPS encryption? That is a truly fascinating technical leap for you to tackle next. Thank you so much for exploring this explainer with me today.